And this is my interpretation for Mars square Saturn in Synastry. This is a part of my Astrology Synastry series. Oh man. This Synastry aspect is like a parent and child relationship, with the beginning stages being the worst part for anyone who shares the Synastry. The Mars person depends on the Saturn person and resents it and chooses to rebel. The Saturn person feels responsible for the Mars person and becomes frustrated more often than not. It's interesting because parents love their children most times. And children usually love their parents at the end of the day, despite all the growing pains. Personally, I'm estranged from my family, but my parents still have an emotional hold on me. I love them despite all the pain I feel that they've caused me, and I'm sure they feel the same way about me. They provided me a safe environment and a private education, so despite them not being there emotionally for me, I am grateful and I love them. They were very hard on me and expected a lot from me, but at the end of the day, I'm hyper independent and strong because of them. So with the Mars square Saturn synastry, that is how they both feel about each other, which inadvertently causes the square, the challenge in this dynamic. A parent can claim that their child gets on their nerves, but in the same sentence, they'll also claim that they wouldn't be where they are without their kids. And usually their life reflects just that. Example, before kids, the parents weren't living right or taking anything serious. After kids, I've witnessed parents buying houses, obtaining degrees, and having better jobs. They felt the need to grow up, and so they did. It wasn't just talk, it was all action. Kids can claim to hate their parents, but when it really matters, the kid always comes through for the parents, even in adulthood. You can hate your mom or hate that she made you clean your room, but you do it anyway because deep down you love her. Your parents hate how expensive you are, but they still work hard to not only provide for what you need, but also to strive for, to give you what it is that you want. Both parties want to please the other, and in this quest comes the frustration, because if only I didn't love the Saturn person, I wouldn't have to do this. If only I did not love the Mars person, I wouldn't have to tolerate that. We tend to eventually love what we initially found difficult at first. Therefore, I can say that the Mars and Saturn person do begin to love each other deeply after some time. Anytime Saturn is involved, you can expect long term. It's weird, but the more anyone invests financially or energetically into something or someone, we become emotionally invested. It's oddly never the other way around. I suppose that is why some say love is an action and not an emotion. With that being said, this couple shows love through action. The Saturn person trains the Mars person to act, and how to properly exert their energy in a mature manner. And initially, this is where the hardest challenges come in. The Mars person is like a wild animal, and the Saturn person is the trainer trying to domesticate a wild animal. Some wild animals will submit, meanwhile others rather die than to be domesticated. The resistance is usually coming from the Mars person, which again makes the synastry very difficult to deal with. The Saturn person feels like they have to teach or reteach the Mars person everything. Usually it's reteach because we're grown. So if the Mars person is used to being disrespectful, immature, and playing games in relationships, the Saturn person will correct this behavior, and it will feel like the Mars person is receiving an ass whooping, similar to that of a parent disciplining their child. The Mars person will feel like everything they do is a problem and they're unable to do anything right according to the Saturn person. The Mars person will either decide to give up, rebel, and run away from the Saturn person. Kind of like a teenager who is mad at their parents for expecting better from them and begins smoking, drinking, getting in trouble with the law, those kind of things. The thing is, the Saturn person does have high expectations, and the Mars person will be challenged to rise to the occasion. The synastry aspect does give off ultimatum vibes because in reality, the Mars person needs the Saturn person more than the Saturn person needs the Mars person. And if the Mars person is honest with themselves, they know this. Now, going back to my examples, the wild animal needs the trainer, and the reckless kid or adult needs their parents. Parents provide protection from all things that the kid isn't ready for, and same goes for the trainer. But in the moment, the animal or the kid, and in this case, the Mars person, is unable to appreciate this and views it as an opposition. An opposition means someone against them or something against them. not a square, which represents a challenge to be overcome. The Saturn person has more experience and knowledge because they've been there and they've done that. The Saturn person wasn't born yesterday, so to speak. So the Saturn person has patience with the Mars person to an extent. Depending on the sign Saturn is placed in will determine just how short that patience will extend. The Saturn person wants to invest in the Mars person, but only if it's worth it. And that is where the strength or the weaknesses of the Mars person will be exposed and challenged. But it'll be up to the Mars person to rise to the occasion. Things get better with time with this couple, so long as the Mars person adheres to what is being taught, shown, and expected, like anything in life. When we start new jobs and are undergoing training, things seem overwhelming, but as you stick it out, the job becomes easier, and you will find that you are capable all along. When we start lifting weights at the gym, it's painful, foreign, uncomfortable, and hard work. But only the strong survive, right? When you stick with something hard, over time you see massive growth, and that is what this synastry is about, especially for the Mars person. As for the Saturn person, they must learn greater patience and understanding and maybe some compassion, because they have been the Mars person before until they had to learn for themselves. Not everyone heals and learns at the same speed as yourself, and having that expectation isn't realistic or fair. The Saturn person may be too hard on the Mars person, and sometimes this is because the Saturn person is trying to be better through the Mars person. So back to my parent and child example. There are so many parents who failed in life in some regard, and then they have children and try to live vicariously through the child. A parent always wanted to be a doctor, for example, but couldn't accomplish this, so they expect their kid to live out that dream. When the kid rebels, the parent in turn feels betrayed and let down and gives up on their kid with feelings of disdain and resentment. So the Saturn person is challenged to reflect upon their intentions when it comes to the Mars person. Nonetheless, the Mars and Saturn person are invested in each other because they both have a point to prove. The Mars person has the energy, the drive, and the will to rise to the occasion, but the Saturn person may initially make them feel insecure and question themselves. This makes the Mars person angry, but deep down it's really insecurity because the Mars person wants to make the Saturn person proud of them. They just hate how the Saturn person goes about it. Again, it feels like an ultimatum or conditional love, not unconditional in the eyes of the Mars person, and this makes them resentful and resistant initially. The Mars person ultimately doesn't feel like they can be themselves or accepted if they do not submit to the Saturn person. Whereas the Saturn person feels like they do understand the Mars person, which is why they have high standards for them. Because they can see the potential in the Mars person that the Mars person cannot comprehend at the moment. Personally, I'm predisposed and maybe biased in the sense that I feel that life is about challenges and growth. If you are with someone who doesn't challenge you, I feel it to be pointless. I view this synastry to be very beneficial and reflects a mature love that will last the test of time, which is what we all claim to desire at the end of the day. But when things get hard, most people run away from it. If you truly love someone or want to make it work, you'll find a way. You'll make a way. Giving up was never an option. And this is my interpretation of Mars squaring Saturn in synastry.